Good morning and welcome to the Carpenter Shelter Town Hall on family homelessness. My name is Jim Taylor, and I have had the great honor of serving on Carpenter Shelter's Board of Directors since 2017 and serving as the board chair since last July. I also work for the Urban Institute, which is a nonprofit research organization that provides data and evidence to help advance upward mobility and equity in our society. I serve as the Chief Equity Officer at the Urban Institute, so I have a special appreciation for all that we do at Carpenter Shelter to help Alexandrians who are homeless to achieve sustainable independence, leading to more equitable outcomes and an improved quality of life. This town hall is a great venue to hear from staff leaders at Carpenters about all of the progress we're making and all of the opportunities that lie ahead. And I'll say on behalf of our board of directors that we are really excited about the vision that Shannon has shared with us and about how we as a board can partner with Shannon and all of the other outstanding leaders on the Carpenter staff that you'll hear from today to help that vision become a reality. One example of this vision is Carpenter's decision to transition into becoming exclusively a family residential shelter. This has been a long-standing topic for the board's program committee, as well as for the full board. I want to commend Shannon and all of the staff for going about this decision the right way. There was robust discussion with management and with the board before Carpenters made this decision to move forward. And not only was there robust discussion, but there was also a commitment to making a decision that Carpenters felt would allow us and other stakeholders in the Alexandria housing system to use resources in the most efficient way to provide the best service to the community. In other words, we're being effective stewards of our resources, and we believe that this change will allow us to live out our mission and our purpose more fully. Mission-driven and purpose-driven are great ways to describe the executive director of Carpenter Shelter, Shannon Steene. Shannon joined Carpenters in May of 2015, and he brings 20 plus years of experience working with homeless populations. I have personally had the great pleasure of knowing and partnering with Shannon even before his coming to Carpenter Shelter. And I would say without hesitation that he is one of the most dedicated leaders I've ever been around. So I would like to now introduce Carpenter Shelter's Executive Director, Shannon Steene.
Oh, thank you for that, Jim. I appreciate your kind words, and it has been great working with you in a variety of capacities over a number of years just to improve our community. And also welcome to everybody who is here on the in the Zoom room with us today. We're grateful to have you here. We are, by pulling this town hall meeting together, we're rerunning a play that we ran when we were getting ready to move to Landmark. At that time, we wanted to make sure that because Carpenters is such a team effort, because we have so many volunteers, so many donors, community advocates, that all work together toward a shared common purpose, that we thought, what better way as we're looking at another change for Carpenter Shelter, what better way than to pull you all together, share what we have for information, knowledge, and to glean perspective and questions from you as well, just to make sure that everybody feels well equipped to continue to work together to live out the mission of Carpenter Shelter. I would like to do just a few quick introductions. We've got some members of Team Carpenters that are on the call with us this morning. In particular, our entire development team, and so Moniz, who is our Director of Development. We have Joe, who handles communications and is running point on the logistics of this morning's Zoom. We've got Jamila, who is handling things in the community relations vein. And we've got Meghan, who certainly is all things volunteers. And in addition to the development team, Jamie Ergas is our new Deputy Director. You're going to hear from Jamie in just a minute, as well as Lawrence Smith, who is our Director of Programs, and you'll be hearing from Lawrence as well. When I think about what we're going to share with you in just a moment, it really buckets in two ways. The first of them is just general information and the specifics around the Bezos Day One Families Fund, which is a wonderful opportunity empowering the work and mission of Carpenters heading forward. And one of the ways in which it's powering that, and one of the byproducts of a very generous support from that fund, is that we are shifting to a families only year-round emergency shelter. Now, before we launch into any of that, we do want to know who's in the Zoom room with us. So if you can grab your mouse, there's a poll that has just appeared on the screen. If you can click any of the hats that you wear when you think about your affiliation with Carpenter Shelter. So that would be great if you're volunteering, if you're a donor, if you're just plain wondering what's going on, there should be a checkbox there for you. So you want to click in there. And we'll give it another probably 10 seconds. We could have a big grand countdown, I guess, going on, but instead you just hear me prattling on. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wonderful. A little over half of you are volunteering in some way, shape, and form with Carpenter Shelter. It's also great to see that we've got staff members in addition to those that I introduced that are with us as well. And so welcome to all of them in addition. The Bezos Day One Fund is a national funder. They did approach Carpenter Shelter asking if we would be open to applying for $2.5 million in order to move the needle on family homelessness. We thought about it. This, in some ways, ties very much. As Jim has said, we've had conversations for a number of years about our emergency shelter in particular, and if we should specialize in families. The Bezos Day One Families Fund is all about families with children. Their request was, would you help us move the needle on family homelessness in Alexandria? And Carpenter said yes, that we would. The spirit and the values behind that align very closely with the spirit and values of Carpenter Shelter. The timing also went very quickly in this sense. They approached us in August. We applied in September. We heard internally in October, and it was announced publicly in November that all of this was going to happen. So if you feel like you've been left out of the loop, trust me, it hasn't been that long of a timeline. Things have moved at a gallop with this. And by pulling us together this morning, we want to make sure that everyone feels up to speed on the latest information. We are the only organization in Northern Virginia to receive funding through the Bezos Day One Fund. Last year, Doorways, which is operating out of Arlington County, did receive an award from this fund as well. But we are super proud to be working with the Bezos Day One Fund. We are super proud to have been singled out one of 40 organizations across the country. The $2.5 million award can be used in up to 5 years. And so we've got a little bit of a longer window than many of the grant fundings that we normally would see that happen on 1 or maybe 2 year cycles. This is a little bit further out, and it is meant to supplement, not supplant, existing funding for us. When we think about moving a needle, it assumes that the status quo is going to be there and the needle move is going to come above and beyond what you're already doing. And so when we planned out how we were going to achieve this, level of support was above and beyond what we normally do. I hope that each of you, if you are volunteering, if you are donating, if you are advocating in the community, that you will hear a wholehearted invitation to stay with us throughout this process. This is something where we still need the entire Carpenters team pulling together as fully as we can. There were many eligible activities that they talked about. They're listed here on the screen that Carpenters could apply for and funnel these this award toward. In many ways, the rapid rehousing that we are doing with families felt like it was the greatest need in our community. The shelter waiting list for families in the city of Alexandria is longer than I've seen it in my 7.5 years here at Carpenters. And this certainly built on some of the ideas and the efforts from our board and our staff innovation committees. We did make a presentation to the city before we got too far along in this capacity, and we continue to talk with them about what effects this would have within our broader homeless service system throughout Alexandria, not just specific to Carpenter Shelter. We're going to get into a little bit of nuts and bolts right now around how this is going to work. And so I do want to introduce Jamie Ergas. Jamie is our new deputy director. She might be a new face for some of you because she joined us in the fall, in September. And speaking of operating at a gallop, Jamie has been certainly doing that since coming on board. So Jamie, can I turn the reins over to you?
Thank you, Shannon. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. Now that you've heard some of the background on the Day One funding opportunity, how it transpired, and how the funding can be used, I'm going to go into some more details on how we are planning to implement this resource and where we've already gotten started. So the first area I'll talk about is our emergency shelter. If you didn't know before, you now know that we are shifting the emergency shelter to serve only families. And as both Jim and Shannon mentioned, this concept is not new. It has been explored in the past, but recently the waiting list for the emergency shelter for families is at the highest that it has been. And it's really the combination of this recent and persistent need, as well as the significant funding opportunity that has led Carpenter Shelter to make this decision and make this transition now. So what exactly does this change look like? Carpenter Shelter has a total of 14 rooms. 6 of the rooms have been used for families and 7 had been used for single individuals. And then if you're following me on the math, there is 1 room that has been overflow for singles or families. So we will simply be converting the 7 rooms that had been used to serve single individuals into rooms that will serve families. This process has actually already started, and we are intending for it to be a gradual change that happens through attrition. So once we help single individuals we are currently serving in the emergency shelter to obtain permanent housing, or as rooms otherwise become vacant, we will just notify the city's Homeless Services Assessment Center, also known as HSAC, which is where we currently receive our referrals. We will just let them know that our room is now ready to serve a family. We anticipate that the emergency shelter will be fully transitioned to serving only families by the end of this fiscal year, end of June, if not sooner. And then this change actually allows us to increase our capacity while still holding to the safety COVID precautions proposed by the CDC and the health department. So we physically have 63 beds and only 40 to 45 have been used since the pandemic started to make sure that we are protecting everyone that we're serving. So the conversion to families in the emergency shelter allows Carpenter Shelter to bring all of our beds back online, since we will now have just 1 family household per room versus multiple single individuals sharing a room. And then as we talked through how the process came to be to make this decision to switch the emergency shelter to serve only families, we did approach the city as soon as we were able to share the information about the Day One funding. So we brought them into the conversation. We also shared this transition with a gaps and needs committee within the continuum of care, which is the homeless services system, as well as the governing board of the homeless services system, just to make sure we are really thinking through any system implications that a change in our emergency shelter could have. So the next area in which we're going to use the funding is rapid rehousing. This sort of sounds exactly like it's called, but for those of you that are not familiar with this term, this is an evidence-based approach that focuses on 3 main areas. So helping people to find housing, providing short or medium-term rental assistance, and then providing individualized services needed to help the household stay in their homes. So the Day One funding is intended to move the needle on family homelessness. This application was written assuming that the existing rapid rehousing would remain in place. So the Day One funding is in addition to or on top of what's currently available. We're also hopeful that as we are connecting families to housing more quickly, this will present with shorter stays in the shelter or shorter experiences of homelessness. And then the shorter stays will create more turnover in the shelter and therefore more opportunities to meet the demand for shelter that we are seeing in the community. So numbers 3 and 4, the next areas that we'll talk about, firstly, the services to families. So in addition to housing stabilization case management and housing location services that we currently provide, Carpenter Shelter is aiming to add more programming to help families achieve both short and long-term stability. We are in process of thinking through an employment or income-related pilot, which is based on research from the innovation committees of the staff and board. And this week, we're actually going to bring some of the concepts to the Resident Advisory Council, which is comprised of clients, so that we can make sure to get their input to help us shape what this sort of pilot should look like. Similar to our Lee Pfeiffer Scholarship Fund, we also want to use the Day One funding to support employment-related education or training, entrepreneurship, and/or homeownership. And then the last area to note is that we want to further invest in our equity efforts. Using an equity lens, and more specifically, a racial equity lens, has been central in all aspects of the planning. We are thinking through possible unintended consequences of decisions, considering who is engaged in decision-making processes. We're also thinking through who benefits and who is burdened. We primarily serve Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC community, and we want to make sure that we better understand who we're working with. We want to better understand this population. We also want to improve our data in general, ensuring that we are disaggregating outcomes by demographics, including race and ethnicity, and then consistently monitoring the outcomes in this manner. We do have racial equity committees of the staff and board that will also likely be involved in helping to shape how we use the Day One funding in this area. So the Day One funding, tremendous opportunity to increase our impact, but like any grant funding, it does have its limitations. Like we talked through, it can only be used for families and for the specific things that are eligible activities, but there are plenty of needs in other areas of our work and in the community. Carpenter Shelter is still serving single individuals in David's Place, in the winter shelter in partnership with the city, in permanent supportive housing, as well as in rapid rehousing for single individuals. So these programs are remaining as is and do not have any changes. And there are, of course, still needs in these directions. So this was a lot of information so far. So we're going to take another poll just to check in to see how everyone is feeling. So this should pop up on your screen. You've got 4 options. Feel free to go ahead and make your choices. While you are thinking through this, if you do have questions now that you're worried that you're going to forget, feel free to put the questions in the chat, and then we will, of course, have a question and answer portion of today's webinar. So we'll catch those at the end. So feel free to use the chat to put that information in now. All right. Let's see if there is the poll ready to pop up with the results. All right. So it's good to see that some are excited. It is also perfectly understandable that you're just taking the information in. We realize that it's a lot of content, so we want to make sure that we have time to answer your questions, and we will certainly do that. So the next step that we're going to go to is actually a video tour of the shelter. Some of you might be familiar, some of you may not be, so we wanted to make sure that we show you the space. And then right after the virtual tour, I'm going to hand it over to our Director of Programs, Lawrence Smith, who's going to show you some more pictures of the shelter and highlight how the spaces will be used to serve families.
The Carpenter Shelter. We're going to take a little look around the building. We want to show you what it is that we've been doing. Come on in.
We're laid out as a plus sign. So on the back to my right is our community room, our classroom, a computer lab. To the left are the shelter rooms and some staff that provide support services to them.
Here you can get a closer look at one of the family rooms in our residential shelter. You see there are 4 empty beds here, so a family of up to 4 could stay in this room together without having to be separated. They have lockers and furniture they can use to make themselves comfortable. This room is adjacent to our private courtyard where residents can hang out, enjoy the weather, grow food, take smoke breaks, and just enjoy the space in general.
The Carpenter.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'm excited to be here with you. On the slides there, if you the slide on your left-hand side, that's a slide of the occupied family room. Upon admission, all members of our family are given new linen bags that contains fresh linens, blankets, pillowcases, sheets, towels, washcloths. They're also allowed to shop out hygiene closet to get hygienic items, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, any feminine products that they may need to take care of their personal hygienic needs while they're there at the shelter. Initial entry into the shelter can sometimes be anxious and traumatic, so we try to make it as smooth and as welcoming for them as we can. The middle one there, that's our children's playroom. That's designed for our younger kids, mostly our toddlers. We have a variety of different games and activities. Comes every Wednesday, Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. They conduct different activities with the children, give the parents a little break, let the kids have some fun. The parents have to remain in the building during that time, however, they don't necessarily have to be in the children's playroom. And on the right-hand side, that's our playground. Our playground area is shared with the Bloom. The Bloom is an independent apartment building that's housed above us. We share our playground with their residents. The playground is an exciting opportunity for our young kids to get out there, get some fresh air, and take advantage of the swings, the slides, and everything that's out there on our playground. And on the next set of slides, to the left, we have our teen lounge. We wanted a spot that we want to design for our older children, our teenagers. So we designed a teen lounge for them. That's more where they can come in, they can do their homework. A lot of them play games on their phones, play board games, card games, things of that nature. They could talk to their friends and little piece without being none of the scrutiny of mom and dad so much. So that's what we designed that teen lounge for there. The middle one is our library. We have a library designed for mostly for our older kids if they want to come read books, have some quiet time, check out there. Also, a lot of our adult residents utilize that as well for some quiet time, read books and things of that nature. And finally is our kitchen. All our residents receive 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For our residents, we follow the USDA guidelines. All our kids receive a protein, vegetable, grains, as well as milk, and of course with the USDA guidelines to make sure they're receiving healthy meals. And of course, all our meals are prepared by our amazing volunteers. And so we thank you all for that as well. Next, we're gonna go to a slide where you can actually hear from the residents. We have one of our former residents who successfully transitioned into housing. So we're gonna hear from her, and then after we hear from her, I'll be back to tell you about our Shake the Keys campaign that we recently implemented.
We were living with my daughter's grandparents at the time. We were sleeping in the living room, actually. It wasn't enough room for us, and she gave me like a short period of time to just stay there so I could figure some things out. In the process, I was eager to leave because in the process of that, I actually got robbed and carjacked. So it kind of made me scared to like go in that area, which led me to start sleeping in my car. I just did some research and looked up some things, and I actually, when I typed in like places to go in Virginia, this location pulled up. So once I read it and I just called in, kind of gave them a little bit of description, like, I need somewhere to stay. I've been sleeping in my car, me and my kids. So, the process was very fast. Like, they called me, like, everything happened in that same day. I didn't have to wait. They got back to me when they said it was gonna call me back. They did call me back. They always had answers for me. Like, it wasn't like I was like wondering, like, okay, what's the next step? They told me, like, once, they asked the questions and they gave me the information that I needed. It's okay, now someone else is going to contact you, and that person did contact me and they did place me. So it was like a less stressful experience. To see them in person, to know that the voices of the people I spoke with matched their personality was, a relief as well. Because, people can be one way on the phone and then another way, in person. So even over the phone and in person, both of the energies matched. So I felt comfortable, like, when I came in the door. In coming here, I was a little scared, and it's just because, like, what the world says about going to shelters, and I never been through this process, so I didn't know what to expect. But once I got here, you know, and I kind of like, you know, just watched the scene, you know, just like try to feel out the energy. It was very safe, very warm, welcoming. They were respectful, like they made sure we was good, you know, they tried to make it feel, you know, as home as possible, and I did, only because I knew, or I had my mindset that I didn't want this to be the final step for us. So, but it was like, it was very warm and welcoming, like.
I felt safe here, felt welcome here.
Yes, Miss Joaquina is actually our case manager. She was an amazing person. Like she's very, very good at her job. Like she don't only have a heart to help people, but she go further than that. Like she made sure we were safe. She made sure we ate. She made sure we had like everything we literally need. Like even things that we probably didn't thought we would need, she made sure we had. Like I'm talking about toiletries. Like she was there every step of the way. Like she calls, she checks in. She brought us things. Like she just was an amazing person.
She got me some toys for Christmas and a lot of more stuff.
She pretty much gave me, like when we do our weekly check-in, she pretty much gave me like an outline of things, which I felt a lot better about. Like I had a lot of questions, but once we, I actually was like ahead of her. So she was like, you know, you have to wait, like I'm gonna get to, you know, to that point. But I just wanted to make sure everything lined up because I was trying to go ahead to make sure I could do what I could do or whatever. But every step of the way she made sure, you know, I had, like when it was time for me to start searching, she pretty much said, you know, hey, I want you to start, you know, looking and, you know, let me know. She checked in with me. It wasn't a hassle with moving. Like I literally didn't have to do anything but move my things. Like I had help. It wasn't a hassle like going to pick up my keys. Like everybody was on the same page, and it was a smooth process. Like I expected for me to have to like go and do this, and I expected for me to have to go get a U-Haul company. I mean, we didn't have anything but clothes and shoes, but even still, like here's your keys and welcome. Been in our new place for 7 months now. Getting settled was kind of stressful simply because I didn't know like about furniture and things. I was again ahead of her, but she already was working, you know, behind me. She just texted me one day and was like, hey, I have a person coming to do your apartment. I'm like, huh? What do you mean? She's like, she's an interior designer. I'm like, oh, okay. And even that process, like we were overjoyed to, you know, leave home to no furniture and come back to furniture. Like we were very, very happy. It made it just that much more, you know, we were just that much more grateful because of, you know, what they had done. Like not only did we get a place, but we got furniture as well. So it was just a big, 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 like you guys were a blessing to us, like a big blessing. I would just say for me and my own personal experience, try not to focus a lot on how TV puts shelters to be. Actually go through it and see people. There are still nice people in the world. There are still people out here that help. You guys are very welcoming, warm. I would recommend you to any family. You guys help. Not only do you help, y'all go beyond your job to do, you know, make the families feel safe. Do what you can. You make sure they eat, they sleep, they have a place to temporarily call home, and then you guys will place them, you know, in a safer place to call their home, where they don't have to worry about anything. So I would recommend they are 100 out of 100.
And they welcome us here.
Once we came to pick up, you know, like a bed, because when you're moving, of course, you'll have like a bed and stuff. So when we picked up our stuff, you know, they had like a package for us. And so when we got here, a lot of the staff was just like, you know, congratulations. You know, it was very welcoming. Like it felt really good to accomplish that much. You know, you don't know what the outcome will be of things, but for it to be good and go smoothly, it's a plus. So we were.
And again, congratulations to that client who's been there, as she mentioned, successfully housed for 7 months and counting. We mentioned our Shake the Keys campaign, what we implemented recently because we realized that a client getting their keys to a new apartment or a house is a major opportunity, a milestone opportunity for that client. And we all at Carpenters felt like we wanted to express our appreciation to that client for their hard work. So what we do now is whenever a client receives their keys to their lease, the announcement is made on the intercom, and all the staff who are available come to our main entryway. We basically just shake our keys and congratulate that client on them receiving their house. And it's a joyous occasion. The clients are happy. There's laughter, there's tears of joy. It smiles all around. It's a great occasion. And we couldn't do it without the work of you all. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it over to Meghan, our volunteer coordinator, who's gonna tell you how you all can get involved.
Thank you so much, Lawrence, and to everyone for taking time out of your Saturday to join us for our town hall. I first want to start off by noting, since Carpenter was founded 35 years ago, we were a really small group of concerned citizens seeing a need, but now we have grown to being over a group of 1,200 volunteers that continue to be dedicated to our mission. Our team of wonderful volunteers provide an immense amount of services to ensure that our shelter is able to run efficiently 365 days a year, and we could not do the work that we do without the support of our volunteers like you. So with this transition, we also anticipate that our needs are going to increase for volunteer support, specifically at the front desk. Increasing children's hour support and providing and/or serving meals. If you are interested in getting involved or learning more ways that you can get involved, please visit our website at www.carpentershelter.org/volunteer. We also will need additional support in other ways, for example, in-kind donations and financial support, which remain a key to our ability to provide for the immediate and long-term needs of our families, as well as our operational costs. To learn more about in-kind donations, you can email me at M Cole at carpentershelter.org, or you can type your email address in the chat to be added to our email distribution list. Additionally, we have available monthly, annual, or one-time financial donations, which can be made via our website or through your paycheck using our CFC code or United Way code that are displayed on the screen. I would now like to pass it on to our Community Relations Manager, Jamila Smith, to further speak on ways that you can help support us throughout this transition.
Good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces and names on the in the Zoom. So thank you for joining us and welcome. It's my pleasure to first of all talk about additional ways to help, but also to thank you all. It's your service and support that really has gotten us to this point where we can make this transition, and we will still continue to need your service and support to ensure that this transition is a smooth and successful one, and to make sure our families have great and successful outcomes. So here are some ways that you can help, in addition to the ones that our wonderful volunteer and data coordinator, Meghan, just went over. The first thing is planning. As we embark upon this transition, your feedback and your thoughts, your input and feedbacks will be invaluable. We encourage you to share any thoughts or recommendations you may have. As we go through this, please email us at info@carpentershelter.org with any thoughts that you might have that can improve upon this transition. For those of you who are serving with the shelter, we also really want your feedback as well. As you do go through your service opportunities, any ways that you're seeing that this change is impacting your service positively, negatively, or any feedback or info you can give us to help us to make sure that you guys are having the best experience and that our families are successful throughout this is also invaluable. And that information can be sent to Meghan Cole at carpentershelter.org. Finally, we would love it if you continue to advocate on behalf of the shelter. Please spread the word. Our needs with this transition, we anticipate will increase from a service and a support perspective. So we want to get more people involved in our mission to end homelessness in Alexandria. So please share your experiences with the shelter, with your coworkers, faith communities, civic groups. Encourage them to go to carpentershelter.org/volunteer to get involved. Also, like and share our posts. We are on social media. So we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. You can follow us there. Just put Carpenter Shelter on there, and it connects you to the things that are happening in the shelter, but also allows you to share what's happening in the shelter too. So you can see the impact of all your support, and then also share your experiences through our social media sites. Finally, I am the community relations manager, so I would love the opportunity, if you guys are already part of groups that are serving, to thank those groups for your service and talk about the impact that their service has had. And if you are part of civic groups, coworkers or organizations or faith-based communities who aren't currently involved in the shelter, would love the opportunity to get in front of those folks and talk about the shelter and the work that we do in the community. Finally, if you guys are looking for ways to get involved as far as group volunteer opportunities, please reach out to myself or Megan. We would love to coordinate with you if you're looking for specific group opportunities to get you guys into the shelter. So those are all ways in which you can help. Thank you again so much for all that you've already done. Again, it's hard. The video is the perfect encapsulation of that impact. Like, it really is work that is changing lives that we could not do without you. So thank you guys so much for all that you do. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to our executive director, Shannon Steene.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody, for all of your the knowledge, the information, the perspective that you have shared, and especially to the family that we rehoused that agreed to come back and tell their story. Because I think, you know, what sticks with me in that sense is that it is scary when you've not been homeless before and you don't know where you're going. And just to hear that despite some of that fear, despite some of that anxiety, they had a very positive experience at Carpenter's. And so, you know, I love hearing that. And so I believe we might have another poll. Are we ready for that, Joe? Okay. For those of you who have been volunteers here, we just are hoping to get a little bit of a thumbnail reaction on what that experience has been. So if you can once again reach for your mouse and weigh in on that, that would be great. I'm closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ha-cha-cha. Excellent. Why am I not surprised that anyone who's logging in on a Saturday morning to hear about Carpenter Shelter is having a good experience? We are so grateful for that. I do want to just do a quick acknowledgement. Thank you actually to Kate for being the first question to come into the chat window. So I'm going to answer that, but I'm also going to invite, if you have additional questions, if you've heard things, hey, can you tell us more about this, that, or the other? Please feel free to put those in the chat. We would love to hear what is on your mind. But Kate had asked, what is the total annual operating budget for Carpenter Shelter? This current fiscal year, our operating budget is $3.8 million. Now, if you do a quick math on an up to 5-year window that you receive $2.5 million and a 5-year window in which it can be spent, really that's about $500,000, $500,000-ish a year additionally to be spent. Because this opportunity came after our fiscal year budget was approved, we are in the process of figuring out how that affects this current fiscal year, the spending rates and those capacities. But overall, I will say this, that our board, the finance committee of the board, our staff, have all been really great just to see this as a tremendous opportunity, one that we recognize that it will have spillover effects in a lot of different arenas, and we continue to watch and see what those look like. So I see from James a question: does the city understand that the Bezos funding is in addition to the city's ongoing financial support, not a substitute for city funding? Great question. The short answer is yes. The short answer gets a little bit longer in that Carpenter's actually receives a fairly low amount of support from the city of Alexandria to operate the shelter. All told, city support is usually between 6 to 8 cents on the dollar that it takes to operate. our year-round emergency shelter. We do not have a contract with the city of Alexandria to operate this shelter. We do work very closely with them, as Jamie had said, in particular with the Homeless Service Assessment Center. But the short answer is yes, the city does understand that this is above and beyond support that carpenters would normally be receiving in this capacity. Any other questions from the audience? And while we're doing that, I do want to just, Moniz, I know that you and your team have so many different areas in which you reach out to the community. Moniz, is there anything that you want to make sure that everyone on in the Zoom room hears today?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy all of you are here today. And it's so nice to see so many familiar names that aren't just volunteers, but are also donors. The fact that we have this money coming from Bezos, it'd be what you consider restricted money. So we'll still be needing to raise money for everything else that we continue to do. And expect to hear from us. And if you would like to send a donation, then you can address it to me and we'd be happy to receive it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Moniz. I see that Ms. Rhonda came with a question and comment in the chat. How can I use my gift of bringing inspirational encouragement? First day she was volunteering at lunch, she went around and talked with some of the residents and just shared some words of inspiration with them. Megan, I'm going to turn over to you. I see you reacted with a heart there, but any ideas or thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I just want to say hi, Rhonda. Nice to see you on the Zoom call, and I'm glad you had a wonderful experience for your first time volunteering.
Hi, Megan.
We definitely would love to have you back, and I'm so happy to hear that you spread that inspirational encouragement to our residents. We love to hear that, and they love having that. Feel free to reach out to me at a later date, and we can correspond, what times we have available for you to come in to serve. I'd always be happy to work with you for your schedule to find you a time to come in.
Thank you so much for that, Megan. Question here from Kate. What local organizations are likely to receive the unhoused individuals that will no longer come to Carpenter Shelter? That's a great question, Kate. That was part of why one of our first invitations to talk about this opportunity was with the city. Carpenter Shelter and the city for a number of years have had discussions around if Carpenter should become a families only shelter, and if the city of Alexandria's community shelter, the Alexandria Community Shelter, it's located in the Carlisle neighborhood on Mill Road, should be specific to single individuals. The city is considering that possibility. The city is wanting the partnership to prevent and end homelessness, which is sort of like the Assembly of Homeless Service Providers within Alexandria, to weigh in on what it thinks is the appropriate thing to do in that capacity. They're very much wanting to be data driven, and so our full expectation is that while we're moving the needle on family homelessness, we have somewhat of a suspicion that a reduction in singles beds is going to lead to an increase in the waiting list for singles that need shelter in our community. The city has not given a definitive of what they're going to do, but we will continue to talk with them about what it is that we're seeing. We also wanted us to make this change to a families only shelter while our winter shelter is still in operation, just recognizing that for some of the people we serve, when there are changes that are made in that capacity, we wanted that winter shelter to be there as a backstop. So in other words, we wouldn't delay this conversion until the summer when it would not be there as a resource for them. So really tried to get our arms wrapped around how to do this in a thoughtful manner that does think about some of those specific consequences. Jamie, is there anything that I'm missing there in that capacity when we look at and talk about singles?
No, I mean, I think that really covers it. So in addition to the winter shelter, which is, I think, a big component of the timing in which we made this transition, as usual, we still have David's Place that's accessible as well. So just those two areas to note.
Great. Yeah,
Shannon,
last thing I will pile on there before we head over to Moniz is that Carpenter Shelter is still providing services to singles. So through our winter shelter, we still are providing rapid rehousing services to people that are single, even though they will not be sheltered in our year-round shelter that's here. Our medical clinic will still be available to single individuals that are homeless in Alexandria. So we still do have services and supports for singles. It just won't be in that year-round emergency shelter. Moniz.
yeah, I just wanted to shout out additional board members that are also on with us this morning, Nicole Bradley and Tracy Pallone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Excellent. I see that Maggie, who's one of our remarkably committed volunteers and winner of the Bob Douglas Award, I believe, for being an unsung hero. What is the capacity at the residential shelter over at the Alexandria Community Shelter? That is a 64-bed shelter, similar to how Carpenter's had always been. It will serve families, single men and single women. The physical makeup of that building, they have always said that they can't take larger families, so it's usually been more single parent households with a smaller number of children that have been housed over there as families. 64 beds is their total. Coincidentally, the winter shelter that Carpenter Shelter operates is being run out of the exact same building. It is on a different floor from the Alexandria Community Shelter, but there is currently a good number of single individuals as well in the winter shelter over in that same building. You are most welcome, Maggie. Are there any other questions from anybody in the Zoom room?
I guess it's time for brunch.
I guess it is time for brunch. Let me just do a quick wrap up here, which is to say thank you. Thank you for logging in today. Thank you for being part of the Carpenters community. Carpenters would not have shown up on the radar of the Bezos Day One Families Fund if you all, everyone on this call and everybody that is part of Team Carpenters had not established a trusted, long-standing record of success at moving people from homeless to housed. And so we are remarkably grateful. This is a phenomenal opportunity for us. It also means more work for us. And part of what I love is, even though it's more work, and when we're having individual conversations with you all, what we're hearing is a level of excitement, a level of I'm in this capacity, and we're so grateful for that. So thank you for that. Megan put in a great chat here. Should anything come to mind, should you log off today and think, oh my goodness, I totally forgot to ask about this, that, or the other thing, please just send us to info@carpentershelter.org what that question is, and we will circle back and make sure that we answer that question and hear whatever perspective that you have. I'm so grateful for you logging in. I'm so looking forward to us moving the needle on family homelessness in Alexandria and together working to do it. Thank you so much and have a great day. Stay warm, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.